Hello, brother.
Oh, what is happening, my man?
I'm
How are
okay.
you?
I'm fine. How are you too?
I'm doing good. It feels like it's been a long time since I've seen your face.
I think so. Almost a year. We met like on the 1st of June last year on the Via de la
Wow.
Rosa. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So it's
Wow.
almost a
That's
year. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
How are you?
people who don't know how we met, I was actually on my way walking to the Mount of Olives. It was late in the afternoon. I had been stopped and I was having a conversation with some Muslim men who were sharing the Quran, and we were having a conversation, and then you walked along, and then you freaked out when you saw me because you
Yeah,
obviously watched the show. You were looking for me all over Jerusalem.
yeah, yeah. Actually, I freaked
It was
out as I told you that day because I think a week earlier I was like going through your post on Instagram. I was like, wow, it's been long I saw this person, at least on Instagram. So then when I saw that you were in Jerusalem, I said maybe I might run into him one day. So coming back from the city and I saw you on the Via de la Rosa, no, it's not possible. It's not him. So I went closer. You
yeah.
were the one I was so like that was
It
why
was
I
amazing.
screamed. It was
I was
amazing. I
so
think.
I'm still so grateful for that time we got to spend together, just looking over, the city of of Jerusalem, looking over the old city, and we had a moment to pray together, and sort of reflect on the goodness of Christ and what He did in the place that God set that mountain on a stage, set the whole idea of salvation. So it was a cool moment to meet you, and I'm glad we can do this. How is Jerusalem right now? What's it like? You're over there right now.
Yes, I'm here. It's Jerusalem is fine as usual. It's still holy for sure, but it's kind of very hot. It's really hot
Mm,
out here. We're going to like 40 degrees, 42 degrees. So it's kind
wow.
of it's like once you go out, you will like sweating. I'm getting darker every day, as I say.
Yeah. You know
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
This is the first year in 3 years that I haven't been in Jerusalem during this time. So I'm used to the heat.
Wow.
And I would
Yeah,
always
yeah.
skinny black jeans. I don't know what my thinking was, but I would be wearing skinny black jeans everywhere, as I'm climbing up mountains.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. Yeah, but it's good. At least,
Now,
I
Nelson,
used to go.
you live right next to the pools of Bethesda, which is incredible.
Yes, yes.
And we all know that the story from the Gospels where Jesus went to the pools of Bethesda and he healed a man who was a cripple for a long time. What is it like for you? I've got to ask you these questions before you start asking me questions. But what's it like? li- Like
Yeah,
you're like literally walk out your door and you can go to the place where Jesus just did something miraculous, and it's one of those things
yeah.
where you can sit there at nighttime, you can reflect it. It must be powerful for you.
Yeah. Like the first time it was really intriguing. I said, before coming to Jerusalem, I never actually had ideas about these places. I only read them in the Bible. So coming to Jerusalem and so fortunate to live in one of these places for me is the most greatest gift God ever gave to me in my life, apart from the gift of life
Oh,
for sure. But having to walk where Jesus Christ once walked, having to touch and feel some of these holy places, and living in one of those places for me, it's so perfect. And sometimes I get used to it. I'm like, okay, it's there. I don't even acknowledge the presence of it. Like right now, during this time of quarantine, there are no pilgrims or tourists coming in. So usually when the
mm,
tourists and pilgrims are coming in, you feel the energies. Sometimes I just go there to spend time with the tourists or the pilgrims to just get to be in that mood of prayer, that spiritual environment. And I feel all
wow.
kinds of beautiful energy. But right now, I need to force myself sometimes to go there, but I try every morning. I go to church every morning, so every morning after mass, I try to stop there and then do some light prayers. So for me, it's really beautiful. It helps me
I
to
would
reflect about myself.
set up a tent there. If I was you, I'd have a little tent. I'd sleep out there. I'd have my Bible open. I'd be reading that story over and over and over again. It's a powerful story, and it
Yeah,
also a lot of
yeah,
people don't realize from the pool of Bethesda, you just cross over and you're straight onto the Temple Mount. So
yeah,
where
yeah,
the man was hoping to be healed, he was so close to really where the presence of God was supposed to dwell with the Jewish people within the temple, and
yeah.
he was going to the place, and then Jesus finds him in the temple. It's a powerful story. But anyway, let's get into this. You wanted to do a
No,
live
but
stream.
I think what you're saying is very interesting because that is that for me shows that sometimes we don't need buildings to feel the presence of God. We don't need the four walls in order to feel the presence of God. Wherever you are, at one particular point in time, no matter the time, you can always feel this presence, feel the presence of God. As I said, the temple was there and the pool was there. But Jesus Christ didn't ask them to go to the temple in order to get healed. Right there, he healed the man. So I think that
the tabernacle, it's an interesting, like God's setting up this idea that we so need to have something physical, you know, and people, you could tell them all day long about, who God is, but God clearly could see that they wanted to, even when you go through the Exodus story, they wanted to worship something, they wanted to build something, they wanted to have this golden calf. They said, make us a God. So, God knows, goes, you need something physical. So I'm going to make you a tabernacle. So we go through this whole idea of the tabernacle, which eventually leads us to this idea of the temple. But the temple was only ever supposed to give us the idea of God's physical presence coming to us. And when Jesus comes along, there's no need for the temple. But it all goes that relationship, getting into that place where, Jesus is the invisible God who's now been made visible. So we can have a face-to-face relationship. I was reading through Psalm 27 over the last few days, and David talks about, seeking God's face to face and seeing him. And how does that happen if you believe in an invisible God who is so big and so grand that you can't even get close to him? Well, then God's going to make himself small so we can come face to face with him, because it's the relationship, so we have this foreshadowing of Christ coming and becoming the presence of God in flesh, so we can go, wow, now I can have a relationship with my God. It's amazing. But anyway, here we are on your life story.
Yeah, it's true, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful because, like this morning, the Archbishop was here. So we had mass with him and we had breakfast. So he was doing this reflection. He was like, he studied at the Hebrew University. And one day, an Orthodox Jewish lady asked him, she said she read the gospel, she likes reading the gospel. But she asked him, why did we insert the resurrection in the Bible? Like the Orthodox lady couldn't understand why the resurrection is there. So as a priest, he tried to explain, but he wasn't making any sense. At the end, he came to a realization that this is a mystery. And with mysteries, you don't try to explain, rather you have to experience it. You have to make an experience of it. So that is true of faith life. And for me, this is something which kind of shows to me that unless you're not able to make this experience of Christ, of God, you will never understand what it is. And no matter how you try to explain to people, you're never going to make sense. You're going to be like a banging drum. You understand? So that brings me to my first question. How do you feel whereby each time I see your comments on Instagram often, people from different religions asking you, because you have so many followers, and most of them, they have their own purpose of following you. Yeah. And so when I come across some of your comments on your posts, which I really admire, like going through the gospel, how you go through your Bible marathon and the reflections. Some of them, they want to ask you, they ask you questions that, for me, I find sometimes offensive or like an attack towards my religion, whereby I have to be apologetic always. And I'm asking myself, this guy is always having the time to answer these people. Doesn't he get tired, or what motivates you? Why do you feel that you have to do that, or you just do it?
I love people, Nelson. I love people, and my love for God it goes beyond maybe the dislike, the hate, the distaste for it goes beyond that, because I know that at the end of the day, what Jesus came to present to people, he really gave them the option to go, I'm going to present you who I am, but you're going to be able to take it or leave it. But that's the beautiful thing about our God. And I think one thing I found really interesting when I've engaged with, many Muslim people over the last, few months, because I'll get, challenged in like my faith. I'll say, Jesus is just a prophet. Jesus isn't God. Show me anywhere in the Bible where Jesus is God. And what I've realized when I've engaged in these conversations is that they don't like the way Jesus presents himself as God. Now, it would be easy for anybody to come out and say, hey, I'm God, right? That's easy.
Yeah.
Anyone can. Jesus didn't come here just to say it. He came to show it. Because when he shows it, then you're faced with the choice to do I accept it or do I reject it? Now, it's a huge thing in the way Jesus presented himself as God, because we believe in a God that strives for us to be humble, right? God opposes the proud and he gives grace to the humble. So wouldn't it be hypocritical if my God all of a sudden took on human flesh and started yelling on the rooftops, everybody listen, I'm God. I'm the most powerful one in the room. He wasn't like that. And what frustrates, I think, a lot of people is they wanted that because they wanted him to tell them what he is. But he, as a humble God, goes, no, I want to show you who I am and I want you to see it for yourself. And I think that's a really, really hard thing for many Muslim people that follow me to sort of grasp, because you know, they live in an honor and shame culture, right? So what's honorable? Power, strength, might. When you look at the life of Prophet Muhammad, you know, he was this guy who he wanted to conquer, and he conquered land, and everything is kind of like they love that idea of strength, like physical, worldly strength, and that's I think what they admire. But Jesus wasn't about that, you know, because if you're the God of the universe, you don't have to impress anybody. You know who you are. So what, you know, and you see that in the Gospels. And, you know, sometimes for me, well, the reason I've kind of entered into these dialogues with many of the people that follow me is not to start an argument. It's not to go, hey, I'm right, you're wrong. What I've seen is a lot of them just have never opened up the Bible. So they've only ever been told, and they don't have the full truth. So my only goal when I have these conversations, when I put things on my social media, is not to say, hey, I'm right, you're wrong. My goal is to go, wait a second, maybe I don't know everything, and maybe if I open up this book, I can get my own answers, you know? And I think that was that's the problem with religions across the board. Even, you know, when you look at the early church, when Christianity sort of spread outside of, Jerusalem and, Samaria, and it went into the world. What happened when we got to the later parts in the 16th century is that people didn't read the Bible because they were being told what to believe by priests or by, whoever was in control. And we just see that man kind of grasped onto the idea of religion, saw it as a powerful thing and tried to exploit it. But what's the most powerful thing, I think, is giving everybody all the information and then letting them decide. So for me, I'm not trying to make someone believe what I believe. I'm just saying, hey, look at the evidence, and if you can logically see that this fits in or it doesn't fit in, then you're in a better position. Because the one thing I can't stand is having somebody else's opinion and making it your own, and that's when it tells you what the Bible says, and then you tell them as if you've read the Bible. So that's kind of sparked from. But at the end of the day, I love having those conversations, because I think, a lot of people like yourself may have found ways to communicate on that level with people who may not agree with you and go, hey, well, let's look at all the facts and let's just logically think, if truth is truth, then truth should be consistent all the way through, So, that's kind of like I like to engage. One, to, obviously I believe what I believe for a reason, not just blind faith. I study the word. Two, because I want to educate Christians how to respond to those sort of criticisms, because so often, a Muslim person might come to you and say, oh, the Bible's corrupted. So the first question you should always ask, show me the evidence. And every single time they'll say, I don't have evidence. And it's like, okay, let's not make that claim until you can present evidence to me, because you can't just make a truth claim without evidence. And I think that's kind of the way I'm trying to just engage with people and teach people to either respond or to go back to their own belief system, go, let me have a look at this and let me kind of break it. So, people, that's just a reality that I think that the Christian journey kind of faces. Persecution comes because at the end of the day, Christ wasn't here to, come and please everybody. He came to deliver a powerful message and to save us from our own sins. But, sometimes people aren't ready for that. So it's going to create some waves.
I think what it says is beautiful, and I feel I could draw so many things from that, but I just want to raise, just highlight on something you mentioned, which I feel that sometimes we, on our part, we fail to take up that responsibility to read.
Yeah.
We there's a problem of, I'm not generalizing, But some young people, I speak my continent, for instance, some young people, they hardly open the book. It doesn't mean whether the Bible or an iPad, but they hardly get information. And even though they get the information, they don't get it from the right source. And what happens then, you come and you just make noise. As you say, when you ask for evidences to back up your argument, some people are unable to present evidences. And that is, you see that most of the time it comes from petty sentiments. And petty sentiments shows that people are unable to question. So one which is beautiful is that when you read, you're able to question. And when you question, you're able to understand more. But once you just come and just start making noise, you're not helping me, I'm not helping you. But once we are able to, I know that you already have something within you, and I have something. Let's look for a common ground. Let's dialogue, as I say. Let's learn from each other. And I think that for me, that is the purpose of most of because I do this live video on Facebook because my target is the African youth, where I use this video to them to show them that for me just to create an awareness on some things in which they are overlooking. So from what you've said and the way you spoke about Christianity and your beliefs, someone might think that you've been a Christian all your life. You know? When someone sees your post every day, you feel like maybe this man is a pastor or has been a Christian all his life. But I know from what you said to me, that is not the case.
No, not at all.
Growing up, you had your first passion, which I always call it my first love. You know, you had your first love growing up, something you wanted to do in your life, something you wanted to become in life. But in the process, as you grow up, things coming to help you, to empower you, or someone comes to put you down. So growing up, what was it like? What was your first passion? What did you have like the desire to do? What did you love?
The first real passion, Nelson, was to play basketball. I used to love basketball. I was obsessed with basketball from about the age of 10 till about probably 17. Like my goal, my dream was to play professional basketball. Obviously, I'm not tall enough, but I was quite good. I played for my state. I played at a really, really high level as a youth. And then it kind of transitioned when I had a bad accident. When I was 16, I had a really, really bad accident. I couldn't play for 1 year. And that's kind of when the transition happened into acting. Because, my whole life was about basketball, shooting. I would shoot, thousands of shots every single day. I was obsessed with Michael Jordan. I was obsessed with, just the competitive nature of that sport. And then when I couldn't play, I started acting. And then acting was this thing that I kind of fell in love with because of the storytelling element, and that's kind of really what drove me into the life that I've had over the last, 10 years, 15 years of sort of pursuing this acting career. But that kind of, it's kind of a funny thing because, acting is really kind of what brought me into the United States, because I wanted to make it in Hollywood. Because for me, I grew up, my mum was a refugee to Australia. I grew up super poor. I'm still living in, I'm at my childhood home now, where I grew up as a kid. And, I live in we have very, people always think, oh, you're an actor, you must be rich, you must have everything sorted out. And I'm my life is still very, very humble, and it's because money hasn't really been the drive, it's not my passion to make a lot of money and claim to everybody that I've, got some sort of level of fame. So, for me, it's kind of, what was interesting was acting just brought me to do something that I wanted to achieve. So if I couldn't achieve it in basketball, to play at a professional level, I thought I'm going to try and make it as an actor. And Hollywood's the kind of I always set the goal at the highest point you can get, You set it higher than fail, you could get somewhere in the middle. So I made it in Hollywood, and when I got to Hollywood, my first job was Vampire Diaries. That was the very first one that I actually booked. Funnily enough, I was going to quit. Yeah. The funny thing is I was going to quit acting. I got that job because I'd run out of money. I had nothing left in Los Angeles. I was about to call my mom and say, I've given up. I've done 3 years here. I've gotten close to lots of jobs, but nothing happened. And I got offered the character of Cole on Vampire Diaries, which was only ever supposed to be a very small role. But that took me to Atlanta, which got me in front of, Pastor Louis Giglio, who really confronted me with the idea of what's the most important thing in my life. And, what is the whole purpose of life, and what is my life going to look like at its end, And I kind of remember him saying, if it's not God, if it's not Jesus, which is at the centerpiece of your life, nothing is ever going to fulfill you. and nothing's ever going to make you feel full and have purpose and joy and something that's just far beyond what this world tries to offer us. And I was 27, and you know, I'd never really committed to any idea of God or Christianity or anything. And that night I went home, I decided to become a Christian. And I'll be completely honest with you, it took me years to work out what Christianity is. Years, you know, where I would identify as Christian, but I wasn't really living as a Christian, or I didn't really understand Christ, or I didn't really understand God. I just thought this is a nice book that has some good moral meanings, and let's just try and be a better person. And it was still kind of like I was just completely off, you know. And what happens, I think, with a lot of people who kind of become Christian or sort of walk into that is they think it's just going to be like a change, like an instant change, and you're all going to be, you know, living a different life and feel something. And the reality is, no, it's not. It's a journey, and that journey really starts with understanding the character and nature of who God is, and why, based with my character and nature, I need him. He doesn't need me, I need him. And, you know, at 33 was the first year I went to Israel. That was after a point of just some horrible things that happened in my life, rock bottom, made a deal with God on a dusty field in Iraq, and haven't looked back ever since. But it was a point where I was kind of given up on the world. As a Christian, I was like, oh, this world's just stupid, and people lie, and there's no truth. Everything is broken. And I realized the greatest thing that we can offer God is like a living sacrifice, as Paul says in Romans, you know, offer your body as a living sacrifice. And I realized what that actually meant was, I don't care about the result. I don't care about what people think. I don't care about what really happens in my life. I'm not looking for comfort. I'm not looking for fame. I'm not looking for validation from the world. What I'm looking for is to serve my God to the highest level. And what that started was going, okay, I need to know who he is and commit myself. Because I think the biggest problem Christians have today is they just don't commit. That's the biggest problem we all have. And it's, and, you know, you talk to Christians all the time, you know, it's like this cliche thing that I used to hear as a Christian: read your Bible, you know, read it. That's all you need to do. It literally was like, okay, that awesome, thanks. But the reality is, it's true. It's so true. You read it, if you commit to it, not to get something out of it, but to give something back to God. If it's my time, my energy, my hopes, my beliefs, just give it to him. Then all of a sudden you start seeing Christianity work. You start feeling something on the inside. Sorry, I'm talking too much, but I had this.
No, it's good. You know, I love to listen to you because one thing I enjoy very well is when someone is speaking and that person is able to speak from his heart. Is able to put everything out there, you know, and people listening could easily relate. You're not inventing things, or rather you're sharing your life, and there is nothing as rich as someone's personal experience. We know we go through things in life, and we want to have these transformative experiences, and we believe that once we have these experiences, we want people to learn from that sometimes. And I think that's what I'm doing. I'm listening to you. It's creating different perspectives in my head that I really appreciate, and I really thank you for your honesty. And right from the first day I told you that I've always appreciated your humility. You know, when you speak, you open your heart, and you say, as I say, you speak from heart to heart. You know, not from the head to the head, but heart to heart. And when someone can relate to your heart, then someone can really relate that this person is a person of love. So just listening to you now, I feel like it's really challenging for my part as a Christian, you know, to say there's one thing is to say I am, and the other thing is to live it. And it's very challenging. And looking at your life, going into the entertainment industry and staying in the entertainment industry, and then yet you are able to, I feel, and I'm mistaken, but I feel that you're able to balance the faith and the fame. Because you mentioned both when you were speaking earlier on. You're able to balance the faith and the fame. And I'm asking, but how do you do that? How do you handle that? What motivates you? Whereby even when you said you hit rock bottom, yet you didn't give up. The tendency will be to give up. So what kind of triggered that fire within you to say, no, I'm not giving up no matter what I've experienced. I'll keep pushing.
You know what I've realized, which is something that is very hard for us to grapple with. Jesus does it all. I don't do anything, right? So like someone asked me today, they said, what do you do when you feel like you're giving up? And the problem with that question is, I've wanted to give up multiple times. And if I was left to myself, if I was completely in control of my own life, the reality of what would happen is I would have given up years ago, Nelson. I would have given up long ago. I would have given up from the first time someone told something hateful towards me because I'm a Christian. But what I've realized is it's actually Christ who strengthens us in that. So I can't even take credit for me doing anything at this point, because when you start reading the Bible, you start realizing that God provides everything you need. And it's actually a change of, like, instead of me saying, here I am as a Christian trying to represent the faith, and yes, I've got this following and I'm kind of doing it. It's not me, it's him. And when I say that, he gives you what you need when you need it, as long as you're obedient to his word. I'll give you an example, because you can read this book and it becomes just something that's distant from your own life. But when the reality of who God is and how he operates and his timing becomes a reality in your life, then you're like, whoa, he's so real and he's so present. And it's actually scary how close he is to me or you, that it almost makes us feel slightly uncomfortable. So I'm going through this situation in my life, you know, everything, my whole career, everything acting, it's kind of probably, you know, everything's on hold. This whole year's a write-off, which means, you know, I've got bills to pay in the US. I look after my mom, I look after my brother, I look after my family, and all of a sudden everything stopped. Everything. And, you know, it's stressful and it's scary and there's an anxiety to it, you know, and there's different things happening in my life right now that aren't ideal. And I sat down today, and, you know, I'm constantly in the word, and I'm constantly kind of just like, okay, these are the tests. These are the moments where it's like, I really, not the test of God, the test of myself. Do I believe what I believe? Yeah. So I sat down over this meal and I said, you know, God has got this, and you know, he knows what I'm going through. And sometimes you kind of just feel like, does he know? Is he aware? Is he present? I sat down, I opened up my, my Instagram just to, as I'm eating my lunch, and I got a message from a friend of mine just randomly saying, hey, I don't know why, but I'm praying for you today specifically, and I just got called to on my heart to pray for you. You know, somewhere in probably Boston, Massachusetts, you know, reflecting on his life, going, God's all of a sudden said to him, hey, I want you to pray for Nate, and I also want you to message him just to tell him you're praying for him. Now, for me, in that specific moment, I'm like, whoa, I was literally sitting down going, God, are you here? Like, are you present? And when he shows up and just you're like, I'm in control. You go from this book to your life quickly. You're like, oh, wow, he is. He is so in control, and all he's asking from me is the one thing. You know, we have one job, Nelson. Jesus said, you know, John 6:29, when people said to him, what are the works of God? What do I need to do to inherit this idea of eternal life? Jesus said, the works of God is this: believe in the one whom he sent. So Jesus does all the other work. Jesus is going to give you the strength when you need. He's going to save your life. He's going to account for your sin. He's going to die on the cross. He's going to push you through everything that will, like, bring his kingdom to fulfillment in his will and purpose. All you have to do is believe in him. That's it. It sounds ridiculous, but that's the only credit I can take for my life, that I believe in him. That's the only thing I can take credit for. I believe in him. And even he probably stirred that in my heart, just as when he said to, you know, Peter, nobody revealed this to you except my heavenly Father. It wasn't flesh. It wasn't anything. It was God. So the more I read my Bible, the more I realize that if you are his chosen, if you are his elect, he does not fail. And if you are weak, that's great, because he is strong, and he will just continually remind you of his will and purpose. But on top of that, you start going, wow, well, if he is in control, then I can do so much more. You know, some mornings I wake up and I'm like, I'm not doing enough, Nelson. I'm not doing enough. I should be putting out videos every single day. I should be, you know, going to countries that, you know, that really need to hear the gospel, and need to hear it in a way that's just real and true to a broken generation who have heard the same thing over and over again, but they haven't been told the truth of who Jesus is. Not that you're going to get the best life, not that you're going to get comfort, but that you're going to get a peace, and that he's got a promise for you that comes in the end. He says, I'm with you now. You know, I'm with you now. And my promise to renew, restore, fulfill, repair everything that's broken, that promise is coming. But the first promise you have to believe is that I'm with you. I'm here now, in it, with you. Just as I walked up to that cross, just as I put my life on the line for you, you have to believe that I'm in it with you. You know, and I think that's the challenge we have right now. So I'll tell you something interesting as well, because you came up in my mind 2 days ago, because I had 2 Nigerian guys come to the house as they were fixing something. And I got chatting to them about Nigeria. As soon as I heard their accents, I was like, these guys have got to be Nigerian. Because I know Nelson. So I said, are you guys Nigerian? Like, yes, we're Nigerian. I'm like, I have a friend from Jerusalem. He's becoming a priest. He's the greatest kid. We spoke about Christianity in Nigeria, and he was telling me how different it is, because, you know, it's, you know, obviously a very poor country, but so often it's a prosperity gospel they get given. You know, give us money, and God will bless you. Give us money, God will bless you. And a lot of people have turned away from Christianity because they see the hypocriticalness of that. You know, they go, oh, like these mega priests and pastors of these churches in Nigeria getting rich, and it doesn't fit into the gospel message. And that's a huge problem. And that breaks my heart, because I'm like, oh man, who's going to go to Nigeria and rock that boat? You know?
But actually, brother, that is true. I was saying, as I said earlier on, that I began this live thing on Facebook and now Instagram. This is my first live account on Instagram, as a way of creating an awareness. Because I think about these things. You get pastors with private jets, you know, pastors with estates, pastors and priests. And you're like, these are people that are called to serve the poor people or the people. Yet they are taking from the poor people and enriching themselves. And people fall to this, I don't say temptation, but to their traps. It's a trap. Them. Growing up, I used to believe in all these things, but now I'm like, what the hell are they doing? You know, it's like, it's sad. And that's what's happening in Nigeria. And that's why, in terms of faith in Nigeria, African youth, I think we really have, there's a long way to go. And that's why I love what he said earlier on, that if you can't think for yourself critically, you can't make progress. You can't, it's a journey. Yeah. I'm not going to come out, because the danger is that most of these pastors and priests, they want to think for the young people. They're thinking for them. They're not empowering them to think for themselves. And I think one thing which is beautiful is that once we are given the chance to think for ourselves, when we make the mistake, we try to realize it, at least through the help of people or by ourselves. We try to realize the mistakes, and we try to make effort. Like, I think, for example, I'm Peter. St. Peter, 1 minute in the Bible, he's saying, Lord, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to die for you. No one's going to take you away. The next minute, he was denying Jesus. He denied him 3 times. You see, but what is beautiful is that even at that, he realized his human state, that I'm not perfect, but I have to make this experience of this man. And that experience continued. I think that, as you said, what those guys said to you is true. That there's too much prosperity gospel, and it makes the beauty of the message loses its taste. People can't really understand what it's true. And people now are not, and the young people are not getting dumb. They're not stupid. They are fully aware of that. And it's sad. It's really, really sad.
But you know what? Here's the thing that I know. You know, me having a conversation with 2 Nigerian guys in Australia, and knowing you, you know, a Nigerian native who's just about to finish your priesthood, and you're going to be going back into those countries. Like, God is revealing the problem. He's showing young people the problem, and he's like, hey, I'm going to equip you to bring back that generation, because you know, we read through Jeremiah 23, and we know that even, you know, the Jewish leadership, they didn't shepherd their sheep, and the sheep scattered, and God said, I've got a problem with you. This is not how it happens. And, you know, even when you see Jesus in Matthew 23, woe to you Pharisees, and woe to you scribes, you know, and we can see how, man, we're corrupted. We're corrupted to the very core. And the only thing that ever pulls us back is by living and breathing in this word. And God is fully aware of the problem, and God fully equips those who he needs to go and enter into that and bring back a generation. And that's why, you know, why does he choose me? Why does he choose you? Because he has a plan, and it's for his namesake. And when you realize the truth of who he is and how good he is, like, what are my options? What, am I going to go live my best life and do everything for me, or am I going to commit to, you know, the challenge of a broken world? And I think that's a huge reality that I think a lot of Christian people refuse to accept every single morning. We live in a broken, corrupted world. I mean, even right now, you know, people just take advantage of you. People are just trying to just get by, survive, do their best thing. We live in a world where it doesn't pay to have kindness. It doesn't pay to have compassion. It doesn't pay to be humble. It doesn't. So we're in a broken world. And that's a reality that we have to accept, and also go, well, if it is broken, then I need to go to work. I've got a job to do, you know, as a servant of God.
Yeah. Wow. Because something you said now is drawing my attention to the idea of selflessness, you know, like you mentioned it in most of the things you've said. You mentioned it passively or actively, if I may say, that I won't do this because I feel I want to gain something. You know, you didn't go into entertainment thinking you want to make more money, you want to be rich or get for the fame. There was something greater you were in search of. And that's kind of having this, it takes a lot to have this kind of conviction. I don't think something you work on immediately. It takes a lot. You cannot tell me you're in Hollywood and then you're not thinking of the fame or the, you know, all this luxurious life. But now here you are, here you have a young person, I would say a young person like that's you.
Yeah.
Totally the opposite of what the lifestyle attracts. I said there's a lot of conviction to that. Why? Because you have God, you have Jesus. But all you've said, I've said at the foundation, you're strongly rooted on Christ or in Christ. But now, my question is, there are some people that are not Christian. Like most young people are not Christian. They're not Muslim. They don't identify with any religion. Yet they have the passion. Yet they have something they want to go after. How if some stupid person meets you as you are a kind, loving person, say, "Oh, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Muslim, but I feel that I want to go into something like acting or music or something." What would you say to me to motivate me? What do you think I could draw my source from, my motivation from? How would you answer that person?
You mean just in general? The first thing, if someone came to me and I said, look, I want to have passion, I want to have drive, I want to have purpose, the first thing I'd probably say, Nelson, is this: whatever passion you choose, whatever purpose that you think you want to have, if it's not aligned with Christ and God, I promise you right now, it's never going to make you happy. That's the first thing I would say. First, whether they take it, that's the first thing I can tell you. No matter what it is, if it's money, if your goal is just to get rich, there's never going to be enough money. And I know a lot of rich people who are struggling right now because they can't spend their money, and they've built their wealth, and all of a sudden this the whole identity of their freedom and if their identity is wrapped up in this idea of money, it crumbles quick. You know, the interesting thing I think is humans need purpose. We are designed, we're purpose-driven creatures. We always have been. You take purpose away from a human, they're null and void. It's depression. That's why we have so many young people with depression today. The other problem is you give them the wrong purpose, the wrong thing, and it's empty, and they go to depression anyway. The dead end will lead to, you know how they say all roads lead to Rome? Well, all roads lead to depression. One road leads to life. And that's what Christ said, that the way to him is narrow. And he said, strive to stay on that narrow path. The job that you and I have as believers is to encourage and show people that the path that they might be on is not the path that's going to bring any sort of purpose or fulfillment, because this life is short. You know, I mean, even when you go through the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon lays it out and says, whatever you do, no one's going to remember when you're dead. 3 generations from now, doesn't matter. Money in the bank, doesn't matter. House you built, doesn't matter. Nobel Peace Prize, doesn't matter. It's not going to matter. What's going to matter is this idea of what eternity is. And Jesus says, you know, what is eternal life? He says, knowing the Father and knowing his Son. That's eternal life, knowing God. We're so separated from that. So because we're so separated from that, we have this it's like a dead feeling. You know, you wake up, you go day to day, but it's still dead. And even if you get to the end of your life, well, what's the next step after, you know, your last breath leads you to your first interaction with the creator of the universe, if you believe in God. If you don't, then it's going to be a big surprise when you stand in front of him, because you're going to be really confused. But the reality is, nothing you do in this world counts more than believing in, you know, the God who has come to save. So I think really, you know, for me now as a Christian, if my purpose isn't really in line with what God's doing, it's just going to be empty and pointless anyway. And I'm going to wake up just like every other human in the world and feel flat and feel, you know, just like, what's the point? You know, what's the point? But when I have interactions with people on, you know, whether it's on Instagram or just in my daily life, when I'm engaging with people and I'm sharing the gospel and the truth of God, something wakes up inside of me. Something stirs up where I can't even explain it, but I have joy and I'm excited and I wake up with purpose. But I think a really important thing for anyone watching this live video is this. Every single day I have to make a recommitment to God. Every single morning I wake up. Whatever I did yesterday counts for nothing until I wake up that morning and say, today is about you, Lord. And today I give thanks to everything you've given me. I've got a roof over my head. I've got food on my plate. And I've got whatever you've put in my hand to bring the gospel to others. And that has to be rededicated every morning. Because I think the big problem a lot of people have is they just think it's just like once you make a commitment to Christ, you're good, and then you just go about your life. It's a constant recommitment, and it's a struggle and a battle, and whatever forces and principalities that are trying to distract you from God will come at you even more when you start pursuing the gospel, because they don't want you to, you know, when you look at the story of you know, Adam and Eve, it was this serpent that came along who was cunning and clever, and he knew exactly what to say to put them off. And it wasn't saying that God doesn't exist. He was just saying just a little bit of doubt. Really say that? Did he really do that? Yeah. Here with Christians speak today, did God did Jesus really die for our sins? Did, you know, is the Bible, can the Bible really be trusted? It's corrupted. Like, it's all just the same lie, doubt. Let's just put a little bit of doubt. And that's the thing I find really interesting, you know, even when we go back to the Muslim conversation without the evidence, this truth is powerful. When you get to the bottom of this truth and you see the consistency of it over 1,500 years, it is powerful, it's palpable, and it fits into my life. It's truth. If you can't compete with this truth, you need to reject the book and the authenticity so you don't even look at the truth. And that's what the strategy is when they say the book's corrupted, because they can't compete with what the truth says. Because when I go to a Muslim person, I go, cool, forgiveness of sin sounds awesome, but if it's just forgiveness, why did God not forgive Adam in the garden and just be done with it? Why did we have to be separated? Because once one sin happens, that's it. The separation is taking place. And that sin, yes, has to be forgiven, but it also has to be accounted for. It has to be covered. It has to be removed. And only one person can remove all sins from all people who believe in his name. That's Jesus. So that makes sense. That's logical, because when you get into the conversations with them and you go, okay, well, if God just is going to forgive sins and that's all like said and done, don't worry about it. Let's put it under the rug. He should have just done that from the beginning, but he didn't. And the fact that he didn't tells us how serious sin is, and how it's not just to be forgiven. It has to be dealt with. It has to be removed. So I say, go to your book, go to your Quran, and show me where God gives the practical implication for removing sin. And all of a sudden there's no response, because there isn't a response, you know? And that's the thing that I kind of, you know, would love to sort of have a sit down. You know, when I sit down with Muslim friends of mine, I live in a Muslim community. I've grew up with Islam. I'm surrounded by Islam. You know, right now we're in Ramadan, you know? Yeah. And I think that's the thing a lot of people don't realize. They just think I'm probably just like a white boy who has never confronted with the Middle East and has no concept of what Islam actually really is, when all of a sudden they're like, no, every neighbor in my area is. I used to go to my neighbor's house during Ramadan and we would sit and eat, and I understand the culture, understand the religion. I've read the Quran. It's not like I'm just like giving my opinions. I've done the work, I've looked at it, and now I'm asking the question, if sin is as simple as it can be forgiven, why didn't God just forgive Adam? And the response goes quiet. You know? I like that. So that's the thing. You got to bring up an logical thinker, and people. I Bible just as much as I question anything else. But the problem is when I get to the truth of the Bible, I'm like, okay, well, that's true. That fits in. Humans are broken. And God not only needs to save us himself, but he needs to do all the work. and all we need to do is believe in the Son whom He sent. And you know, even the you know, a lot of the time you'll see people just don't even understand what the Son of Man means. You know, they'll go, "Oh, he's the Son of Man." It's like, no, that's a title. That's a title.
Yeah.
Title. It's not like He's saying He is this, like a son of a man. You know, and a lot of people just don't know that. And when you have those conversations with people, it's good to teach them where that comes from. That title comes from the book of Daniel, and that title talks about a person that all nations are going to worship. And they're going to praise, and he's going to rule over them forever. Well, who rules forever? Who can rule forever? Only God. So it's about kind of just educating people and challenging people to what they think. It's the same thing Jesus did. When Jesus first came onto the scene, He said, "Repent and believe, for the kingdom of God is at hand." Repent. Repent means changing what I think. What I think is right is this direction. And Jesus saying, "Nope, it's that way. Going the wrong way. You got to turn around and discover who I am. I'm here. You can touch me. You can see the miracles I do. This is the God you've been waiting for, but you have to change how you think God is, because I'm not a God who is told who He is. I'm a God who will show you who He is, and that's the difference. We want to make Him. We want to make God, because if we make God, we control God. Jesus can't be controlled. You know?
I think we also have to be ready to listen. We have to open ourselves to listen to Him, because, as you said, we saying that we want to make our own God, and that is kind of problematic. And in simple in our day-to-day life, you could see that a concrete example is that people want God to be like I always use this example of a remote control, you know, to change the channel. When I want something, when I want to talk to Him, He should be there. But I think, listen to you, I know that there's a lot. It invites to a life of patience. You have to be patient a lot in order to make this transformative experience. And one thing I really love is what you're saying, that Christians, most of the followers are Christians, and there are thousands of Christians out there. Sometimes they have to abandon their faith due to peer pressure from friends who are not Christian, or they feel that they're missing on something. So, but one thing I can really say to them, based on what you just said, is that this commitment to a Christian life is an everyday process. It's not something you just do once and for all. And I really like that. There should be a sense of recommitment, and we forget that often. That you have to commit yourself.
This, you know, God creates day and night, you know, and we have this fascination with sunsets and sunrises, because we know it marks a new day. It starts something new. And I think the way that works is for us to go, this is a new start, a new day, but which means a new commitment, a new journey. It's like another step of this puzzle of me trying to, you know, I will never be able to understand what God is. I can know who He is. There's a difference. You know, I'm not out to seek what God is and just explain Him from a scientific, but I can know who He is. And, you know, I can know what He cares about and what He is for and what He is against, you know, and it's that journey, but it's that recommitting. I'll tell you this as well. You know, a lot of people kind of look at my life and maybe go, "Oh, you're a Christian and you're sort of stepping out. You've got this, you know, this big audience. It must be hard to do. It must be hard to step out onto that public platform and go, 'Hey, I'm a Christian,' you know." And I'll tell you what, really, really true, Nelson. That's not the hard part. That's the easy part. That is the easiest part, is to say, "Hey, I'm a Christian." That's the easiest part. Even if I, you know, if I got put on a huge stage in front of 1,000 people, I will be the first. I'm a Christian. I want His name on my life. That's easy. The hard part of a Christian is what you do in your alone time, what you do when no one's watching, what you do when you have a choice to watch a TV show or sit and study the Bible. What people will never see I've done is the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and, you know, the weeks and months and years that I've committed to just going, I'm going to read it, not to get something out of it, but just to go, "You're my God, and I want to know what you said." When no one's watching, when there's going to be no praise, when there's going to be no one paying attention, that's the challenge. And I think that's where we fail as Christians often. Because we will never get to the place where it's doing the easy part, where it's like, "Hey, I'm a Christian and this is what the Bible says, and I love God." We can't get there if we can't do in the quiet time. Who among you and who among the people watching tonight will sit in a room for an hour and a half and try and make sense of an ancient text that requires me to understand history, geography, Jewish culture. Like, we have a challenge as Christians, but at the same time, we have more resources than any other Christian in human history. You can type in any verse in the Bible into Google, and there'll be explanation upon explanation. There's commentaries. There's books written about this book. There's that. I've got 12. I've got too much information. But the thing is, who's going to go and search for it in the time with no reward from the world? And that's where we struggle in our quiet.
Yeah,
it's the challenge.
That's a challenge to us all as Christians and as followers of Christ.
Yeah,
that's a huge challenge. Like, because we could spend hours on our phones, scrolling. For sure, I'm not here to dictate how someone lives his life or her life. Mm-hmm. But I think that sometimes we have to question our priorities. We have to question our time. We have to question our personal commitment. And I feel that's where personal responsibility comes in. And some of us young people, it's a problem. Personal responsibility and accountability. You're speaking of for God's sin and forgiveness, and then you mentioned we have to be accountable. And I think that's where to say personal responsibility and accountability are very important. And sometimes we forget about these things. Yeah. We don't think about them. We don't feel that, okay, I have to do something. I have to take my own life.
I think a lot of people would like to be admired or inspiring or something, you look at these people on social media and you're like, oh, they're doing something really cool. I wish I could kind of, I could do that. We all want to kind of have that, but we don't want to do the work that's attached to it, because to actually inspire people means you have to do what no one else is doing. No one else is doing. So if someone read my Bible, like I just recently did that 1 month Bible challenge, people are like, oh, trying to get through the Bible as quickly as possible. No, I wasn't. I wanted to challenge myself and go, look, if I can read the Bible in a month, you can read it in a year. Yeah. If I can read the same, gospel every single day for a month, you can read it over 2 months. But it's about challenging people, going, I'm going to do what most people don't do, because then people go, oh, well, if he can do that, so can I. Because I'm no different to anyone else, Nelson. I'm no different. I've got no special skill set. I hate reading books. You know how many books I've read in my lifetime?
2. I don't know.
I've probably read 1 book cover to cover in my life, and it's the Bible. Wow. I hate it. Yet I have all these books. I'm probably, in about 12 different books. The problem is I never finish them. I jump, and because I always come back to here, but I've got about 12. I think I can move this around. This is just my book list at the moment. All this. It's a mess. My life is a bit of a mess, but that's the thing, it's like, I don't like reading. So this is not me going, I'm a bookworm and I read. That's why I love my Bible. Absolutely not. I hate reading, but I love God. I love Jesus. I'm just obsessed with his story, and I'm obsessed with what he does to people's hearts. I'm obsessed with how he challenged everything we thought and knew that God was capable of doing. He just blows it all out of the water. And every time I read, I was working through the Gospel of Luke, and by the time I got to my 12th reading, I was just every single time something new would pop up, I'm like, he is amazing. The way he presented himself, the way he challenged the heart of the questioner without them even realizing it, and just the way he can take a situation and put it into a parable and make us all stop and think, wow, I'm broken. He's amazing, and I need him. I can't do this without him. So, but yeah, that's the challenge, And like I say, I'm not anybody else. Some days I wake up and I'm tired. I'll just take a day off, but I commit to it. And I think
it's beautiful. Wow. Wow. But I love when you use the word I'm obsessed with it. And when you're obsessed about something, you go for it. And as you say, reading is not your passion, but yet you are obsessed about your experience with Christ. And that what are you doing? In order to fully understand this mystery, I'm trying to get into it. That's what you're doing. And I think that this is a message to most of us young people out there, that find what you're passionate about. And then it's not going to be easy, but try to go into it. But as you go into it, you need to have a solid foundation. Yeah. And for you, your foundation is Christ, your foundation is God. And that is where you have this, that's kind of your source, the spring, where everything springs out from. Really, I think I could say I'm really enjoying this. You know, yeah, as I said, I like to listen to you. I like to learn a lot from you. But now you mentioned earlier on about depression. That sometimes when things don't go the way we want, or it goes too much, we fall into depression. And I know that one of the causes of depression is social media. And I give an example.
Yeah, it's social. Yeah.
People go on Instagram, they see some kind of life, they feel that what they have to. I'm talking about we young people, you know. They feel that they see some kind of life they want to have, but they're not able to get it. They want to look like this. Sometimes some of these things are fake. I say there are a lot of fake lives out there on the social media. And you try to do these things, you cannot get them. And then what happens? You hit rock bottom. Another thing is internet trolls. Like you, for example, I know you receive lots of, I'm mistaken, okay, but I'm mistaken, but I know you receive lots.
If you open the DMs, oh man, some of them are horrible. Some people just can be horrible.
Exactly. So you receive horrible things from people, messages and words, and then yet you are able to get that force to go on. So my question now is to people, young people out there, what can you say to them, those people who experience this internet bullies, they experience this fake lives, and they feel that they have to conform to that thing, and if they're not able to do it, they become depressed or too much anxiety. But how can you encourage them?
So really simple. And if this video cuts off, because I think we've been on the phone for almost an hour, we can either jump back, because I think you can only get 1 hour on live, but we've got about 3 minutes. But I'll just quickly say this. Nelson, you only get your value from 2 places, okay? Your value, individual human, is only ever going to come from 2 places. Number 1, what the world says. Number 2, what God says. But here's the problem. What the world says is valuable is based on how you look, how much money you have, how much influence you have, how smart you are, how good looking you are, very like worldly things. You know, no one's going to pay attention to you if you're not rich, beautiful, you know, funny, smart, all that stuff. Now here, God values you based on the commitment of your heart, right? That's it. Your heart. How much are you willing to love? That's what God's looking at. God weighs the heart, right? The world looks at everything else. But here's the problem. So if you get your value system from the world, you're going to lose. You're going to lose because you're never going to be the best looking in a room. You're going to get old. You may not be the richest. You may not be the most popular. You may not be the funniest. You're not going to be the smartest. You're going to lose. And you're on a track of destruction because we're all going to get old. We're all going to be, you know, there's a point in my life where no one's going to listen to what I have to say because no one cares anymore. You know what I mean? But God looks at the heart. So I switched my thinking, and that's why it's funny. People try and go, I'm going to unfollow you, Nathaniel, because I'm sick of your religious talk. Bye. I didn't get my to begin with. If I went down to 1 follower, Nelson, it wouldn't bother me. My value doesn't come from anymore. My value comes from him. And as long as I'm serving him, as long as I'm obedient to him, as long as I'm humble and know that my position with him is in a place of desperate need every single day, that's it. My value comes from him. And as long as I feel like I'm working my way towards getting closer to him, that's my value. And that's all that matters. And here's the beautiful thing about that. I can't lose. If I lose everything tomorrow, everything, money, like my life, all, like my job, my security, all the stuff, you know, my looks, whatever, it's all gone. I still have him. I still got everything I started with. But for the person on the alternative, they'll never even get what they wanted in the first place. It's the lie. It's the trick. You know, the pursuit of happiness is not what we should be after. You know, we don't, in a broken world, you don't need happiness. You need peace. You need peace to make sense of a broken, corrupted world. And a lot of young people out there, they're struggling because they're investing in the wrong thing. They're investing in the lie. They're investing in things that's only going to take from them and never give back. Jesus says, I don't offer like the world offers. I'm giving you something different. And that's why when you see it, it's the truth. And it's not comfortable sometimes, but it's the truth. We all appreciate the truth because that's all we want at the end of the day. And every single human I've ever met, all they want to do is be valued, feel important, loved, you know, and we can't generate it. You can either receive it and you can give it, but you can't generate it. But yeah, as I was saying, you know, it's those 2 choices and that's it. it's that there's only two ways to go. Your value is going to come from the world, or your value is going to come from God. And the problem is the world is going to really just leave you short, you know, because a lot of us just don't fit into that box, you know, and even the people who think they fit into that box, you know, I've met wealthy people who just have no purpose, no identity. They don't understand what they're doing in their lives. They crumble so quickly. The first problem that comes up, they've lost for words, you know, they have identity crises. You know, the thing that is amazing about Christ is you have a new identity, because we need a new identity, you know. So if you put your identity in your looks, it's going to go. You put your identity in your money, it's going to be empty, because money is just pieces of paper that we put value on. You know, you put your identity in what you've achieved, and, you know, sometimes people won't care, you know. It's one of those things where the only time you're ever going to really feel that value is when you feel and understand how God has his value system, and it's your heart, you know. And what's crazy about that is no one else will know about it. You know, one thing that I've learned in my lifetime as I've continued on this journey with Christ, you know, it's so funny how corrupted we are. Like when we do, oh, I lost you for a second. When we do something good, we want to tell everybody about it, you know. And the Bible's, you know, when Jesus talks about don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. You know, if you do something good, do it in secret so no one knows, because your heavenly Father sees you. And if you go and proclaim it to, you know, the rooftops and around the streets, you've received your reward in full. So even my good deeds, I have to, like, you know, remind myself, this is between me and God. Like how powerful is that? When you see a world on social media, as soon as someone does something good, they have to tell everybody about it, you know? So one thing I've kind of done is, like, you know, the things that I'm doing for other people, you'll never know. You'll never know unless you're the person that's been affected by it, you know? And that just kind of, again, goes to show the motive behind my actions. That God's going, I'm weighing your heart. I'm not weighing how many people think you're good. I'm weighing your actual heart, about how willing you are to love like I have loved you. And that's powerful. And that's purpose for the rest of my life, because whether I live for another 50 years or another 20 years, we live in a broken world, and there's so much to be done, Nelson. So much. Even now, there's probably people listening to this life story who are depressed, who are struggling, who have no identity. You know, they're isolated. They don't have, you know, good friendship, and they're struggling. And you're like, wow, there are people who need the gospel. You know, the one thing that I've been encouraged by is that when God came and sought me out, and he sought me out, he chose me and said, I'm fixing you, and I'm coming and I'm going to restore you. But when he came to fix me, he wasn't just thinking about my life in that moment. He was thinking about every single other life that I will come into contact with that will get to know his truth. Because the thing is, God wants to use people. That's from the beginning. God said, I'm going to create man, and we're going to let us create man in our image. What's his image? Of goodness. His character is of love and giving. We're going to create you in our image, that you're going to do the same thing. You're going to reproduce what I am, you know. And I think he wants to use us, and he will use us for his name's sake. So every time he saves someone, every time he brings someone into a greater truth, he's not only thinking about that person. He's not only thinking about that one sheep that's gone astray. He's also thinking about the other 99 sheep that are about to go astray, or the other 99 that he has to go on. But, you know, it's all about bringing them in so more can come in. And that purpose in the kingdom is powerful, you know, every single day, no matter what people say, you know. And I think that was the thing for me, you know, for people who suffer with depression. I've suffered with depression. I think every young person, you know, has suffered on some level with depression. You know, I was in a relationship, I was cheated on, I was heartbroken, I was, you know, my value system was in that person loving me. All of a sudden I was at rock bottom. You know, you have, you know, these suicidal thoughts. You know, it's human nature to feel like that, where you feel like I've given up on the world. And I remember when I was in Iraq, like I was talking about on our last live, I was in a place where I said, God, I'm done. I don't care anymore. I'm exhausted. I'm tired, and I'm weak, and I can't keep up. And I hate myself. You know, I hate what my life looks like. And he said, if you are so willing to give up on your life, so willing to give it all up, which is what happens when we get to that place of depression where we're like, I just give up. I'm just not, I don't care if I live. I don't care if I die. He says, well, give it up to me. What's the difference? And it's true.
I like that.
What's the difference, Nelson? If I don't care now what people think, what happens if I live, I die, God goes, now I can use you. Because now you don't care what the world thinks. Now you don't care if you have a comfortable life. Now you don't care if someone hates you for my name's sake. Now you become a vessel that I can use to bring my good news, because now you will love, not caring if people love you back. And that's what Jesus did. He loved, not hoping that they would go, yes, we love you, you're the Messiah. We love regardless of your response. And that's what we're supposed to be like. And the only time we'll truly be like that is when we've given up on the world. Because when you give up on the world, you don't care. That's why when people say to me, oh, I'm going to unfollow you. Okay. I'm going to refollow you again. Okay. You know? And that's people go, well, what happens if you talk about Christ and people get uncomfortable? Okay. Like, you know, you're either going to fear man or you're going to fear God. And when I talk about fearing God, my fear is that I would be separated from God. My fear is that I would be so far from God that I would never feel his presence again. That's my fear, you know. And what propels me to preach his word and to live in his word and to share the gospel is because I don't want to be separated from him. Because if I align myself with men, I'm going to get left out in the cold anyway, you know. So anyway, that was that. Any more questions before?
Wow. No more questions, but I just want to say I truly appreciate everything you've said. And for this last part, which is kind of laying emphasis on seeking approval must come from God. We must seek God's approval. And as you mentioned, the tendency is always to go with the approval of the world. What does the world think? What do people think? But once we are able to put our priorities that it is God who created me out of his love, and it's this same God that motivates me, that spares my life, then I think we won't be overburdened with stupid things. Because I'll give an example. Like, I remember when my mom, you give an example of your rock bottom. 4 years ago, on Friday is going to make it 4 years, and my mom passed away. When she died, I couldn't believe it. But what happened was that I was going home from holidays. I had a good time in Congo, working with young people. It was excellent. I was going back home, happy that I'm going to see my parents after 2 years. And inside the car, I was scared that my mom shouldn't die. She wasn't sick or anything, but that was this irrational fear, you know. And then after 3 weeks after I arrived, she died. I was depressed. I tell you, mate, if I had seen black magic, I don't think I would have hesitated. Because I went to the lowest part of my life. It was too much. I remember coming to Jerusalem every day. I was crying. It was sometimes I'm just in the shower and the memory comes. I start crying. But one thing that I draw my strength from is that I had to do a 30 days retreat in Nairobi. There were like no phones, no laptop, nothing, just completely me and nature, having a 30 days experience with God. And then I had a moderator, an old nun, so I was talking to her. She was guiding me through that process. So that kind of helped me really overcome these difficulties. It comes from time to time, but I really had to rise above it. And as I say, it reminds me that once our approval comes from God, nothing's gonna shake us. So I think
a few things on that. Nelson, a few things I'll say on that. Just, you know, death is the scariest reality that we will all face, and often it's the death of the people we love that is more hard to deal with than our own, you know, and it's a struggle. But you know, and first and foremost, that pain is real, and that pain is there for a reason, because death wasn't supposed to be. Death is not part of the program, you know. You know, in the book of Romans, he talks about the wages of sin is death. Death is in our world. But, you know, for me as a Christian, and, you know, we're all going to face that reality where we lose people, the pain makes you go, this world is broken. That's first and foremost. It doesn't feel right, God. But what we find in the story of Jesus is, wait a second, he deals with death. You know, every time someone was pronounced dead in the Gospel of Luke, he said, no, they're sleeping. They're sleeping. Yeah. People laughed at him. People were like, you're crazy. They're not sleeping. But to Jesus, right? To Jesus, they were sleeping because he is the giver of life. He is life. So to him, you're not dead because I can do that and you're alive. There's death. I will defeat death. Not for my purposes. God didn't have to come down and go, oh, I got to beat death. I got to beat it. It wasn't for him. It was for us. It was for you and I to have that hope that even the worst thing that we understand that can happen to someone we love or to ourselves, which is death, my God has confronted and defeated in a real world historical event. So I can have confidence in him because he's like, okay, look, you're not going to just trust me. So I'm probably just going to come down and do it. And that is going to be the centerpiece of my message, that in 3 days I'm going to raise from the dead. Why? So that you might believe that in all things I have you covered, everything. And that's, I know people struggle with death, and I know a lot of people have lost someone, but if that's the case, this is hope now. That's it. This is it. No other God has come and entered into the story and approached the issue of death like Christ did. And that is a powerful thing where we go, there's no other truth. You can go and believe in your other God. You can go and believe in your other book, but you don't have any practical proof that you're going to get resurrected. Nothing. But my God not only told he was going to do it, did it, proved it, and now we cling to the risen Christ. Now I want to come face to face because Christ is alive and we believe in a living God. And praise God for that, because otherwise, if, like Paul says, if Christ didn't rise from the dead, this is a waste of time. This is for nothing. Yeah. But now it's the of our lives going, yeah, you know what? Man can defeat a lot of things. You're not going to defeat death, but my God does. So you better align yourself. So yeah, in saying that, that's a really, really important thing. Also, just with, depression, I want to give a really practical, I talk about, you're getting your value from either the world or from God. People might go, okay, well, how do I do that practically? It sounds good. Sounds great. I love what you're saying. Feel like, okay, yeah, that's a good point. You're right, because I've been trying to get my value from the world and it hasn't worked, and now I feel depressed. But what's the practical implication of that? Well, the practical implication is opening up this book. Like I say all the time, read the word, because there's a reason why God wanted his word recorded, because we forget. We're forgetful creatures, And the other thing is, you will never feel or understand the power of God until you actually put it at the front of your life. A lot of Christian people come to me and they go, I've never really, I've been a Christian my whole life, or I grew up in the church, but I've never really felt God. And I asked them the question straight away, have you ever preached the gospel to someone who didn't know Christ? No. Well, have you ever tried to be different to the people in your school and your college and your work and your community, just to set an example of what Christ looks like to people who don't know? Well, not really. Have you ever read the Bible cover to cover? No. So you've never done any of that? No. Of course you're not going to feel anything. It's like someone coming to me going, I've never really understood what the power of a chainsaw feels like through a tree. I was like, have you ever done it? No. Have you ever turned a chainsaw on? No. Well, of course you're not going to know what it feels like. You got to use it. This is you. And the problem is, this is what people don't like. The only time it really becomes usable is when you know it, which means you have to do the work. You know what I mean? You have to do the work. Again, it's the stumbling block. I will go back to this time and time again. People go, where do I start in the Bible? Chapter 1, verse 1 to Genesis. How far do I go? To Revelation. There's no easy way around it. And you know what I love about that? It immediately tells you where your heart is right now. If anyone's watching this live video, Nelson, and they go, oh, I just don't really want to read the Bible. Well, I know where your heart is. But anyone who's sitting there, you know what? I've procrastinated. I got to the genealogies and I've just stopped, or I've never really been engaged. I've never committed to it, but now I am. Then we know where your heart is. And that's what God's looking at. He's looking at the heart. He's looking at the person right now who might be, in some country that you and I will never visit, a person that we'll never meet face to face. And he's talking to them saying, now is the time that you get to choose. Where's your heart at? And that's that's what I love about this, you know, this journey, this book. Is God, he talks to people, we don't even realize he's talking to them, you know.
It's really amazing. It's really amazing. I just want to thank you. I want to ask you, you were you were supposed to come on the 29th of June, I think, end of the month. So
yeah,
you every year you do this Jesus trek. You do with some of your friends and Christians that feel that they want to make this experience of Christ. Do you think, with what is happening in the world, do you plan to do that anytime soon?
yeah.
Or yeah?
I mean, I love the land, and I love taking people to the places where Jesus was. I love just breaking their understanding of the Bible and going, hey, let's talk about, you know, why Jesus cursed these 3 cities, you know, Capernaum, Chorazin, and Bethsaida. And let's talk about why they're still not today. They're just rubble. And you tell me in control of the universe. You know what I mean? So I love bringing people to the land. I love taking them, and I love saying, like, you know, this is what you thought you knew about the Bible, but this is the stage where the Bible was set. This is where Jesus walked. This is where, when Jesus, you know, I mean, I've got my Palm Sunday brand, and it's my reminder that our King has come. But this is the place where he triumphantly entered into Jerusalem on a donkey, from a prophecy from, you know, Zechariah 9:9, where you just realize, wow, my God has just got every base covered. And you look at Jerusalem and you go, I'm looking at the same landscape that my God saw when he came to save a broken humanity. That's powerful. So yeah, I'll be back. I just don't know when. As soon as this this travel ban is lifted, I hope you're still there so we can catch up.
I hope so. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I just want to share something personal. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sending to the viewers out there, the followers, right? They're just following us right now. It's something I experienced with you. I remember one day I texted on the phone. I said, "Hey brother, how are you?" You say, "Fine." You say, "You're in Australia," and I said, "Oh, tell mom that your black cousin is saying hi." And he told me, "Not my black cousin, my brother." You know, and he said, "Now I'm gonna tell mom that my brother is saying hi." That really, really went to my heart. You know, I think this is one thing which is very important for we out there. We have to realize that no matter what part of the world we find ourselves, we are interconnected, and this bond goes beyond the bond of color, or countries or race, but it's about realizing that we are one single humanity and sharing that message of love. Because as I say, there's one thing to be a Christian, there's another thing to say I'm a Christian, another thing to live it. And when I see a young person striving to live it every day through these daily commitments, it motivates me, and I believe that it's also motivating somebody out there listening to us. I'm going to show you the view of how the world looks like right now before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. I miss it. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I want to get that again and take. Oh wow. So that is the Temple Mount. Look straight ahead.
Yeah. Yes.
Over the rock.
Yeah. And every night they disturb me from sleeping. 4 a.m. every day.
4 a.m. up.
Yeah, I have to wake up. But it's wow. Really, brother, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the words shared. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the friendship. Thank you for taking your time because one thing is giving our time to the other person. And that's what you've done for all those that have followed us this afternoon or evening in your place there. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I know that God will continue to bless you and will continue to be in touch. Stay safe and say hi to mom, okay? God bless you.
You know what we do? We're going to go to Nigeria and we're going to shake up those prosperity gospel preachers.
I can't wait for that.
I'm going to rock the boat, bro. I'm going to rock the boat.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah. I just want to ask you something. I just out of the way, okay? What's your favorite line in the movies, Vampire Diaries? One of your favorite lines? You have any?
Oh, gosh. I mean, you know, like, I don't know. You know what's funny? I don't know if I even remember any lines. You know, you know what? I had this funny experience that actually happened like a couple of days ago. You know, super fans, and this is how you can tell there's super fans, and there's just like, you know, like the Nigerian guy that recognized me when he came to my house, he was like, I recognize this guy, but I don't know who he is. But then there's super fans. So I went to the shops the other day and I had a face mask on because I was doing groceries and we have to wear face masks, and I had a cap. So I literally was like, you could just see in my eyes. And these girls followed me for about, like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, how did they even recognize me as Cole? That's it. I was like, I was like, ticket to you. Like, you guys are, you super fans. But honestly, I forget that I've done the show. And people look at me funny. Like, sometimes I'm like, why is this person looking at me? But it's just, you know, I'm very grateful for it because it's given me a platform. But I think people would probably most like the line, relax, darling, you know, when I beat the hell out, you know? Relax, Davina. I haven't even done the accent for a long time, you know? I'm probably shocked, right? Like, it doesn't sound like Cole. Who is this cheap ripoff? What's with this beard? Shave, bro. Shave. All right, I'll shave. You know?
That's good. But I think with the beard now, you can play the role of Jesus Christ. And you only need the long hair.
I'm like Mel Gibson, bro. I did a movie with him. I should have pitched it. I said, hey, man, like, let's do a remake, you know? I just want to play I'd be happy just playing a prophet, just even in the background, just, you know, an Old Testament prophet, you know? But, yeah, I'm going to keep growing this beard until the end of quarantine. So we'll see how bad it gets.
That's good.
You know?
That's good.
But hey, brother, thank you so much for jumping on. And when are you due to leave Jerusalem?
It's supposed to be the 26th of June, but now with the coronavirus thing, I don't have any idea. I'm just hanging in the balance, so I'm just hoping I'm going to be here. But I will let you know. I'll keep you updated if any changes. Okay.
Right.
And then,
take it as a blessing. You know what? If I was you, I would be sitting on the Mount of Olives every single sunset. I would be like just pumping out worship music over those Jewish. I'd probably get kicked out of the cemetery, the Jewish tombs. They'd be so unhappy with how much worship music I'd be playing. I love that place, man. It's powerful. I'd swap places with you in like a heartbeat. Like quarantine.
I go there in the mornings. I run up there every Sunday morning. Most I run up month of Olive. I sit there and I look over the city. I'm like, this is peace.
Oh,
yes.
I'm gonna live on the Sea of Galilee. I just do tours on a boat. You know,
I have a friend, a doctor in California. He's a good friend with Mel Gibson actually, and then he was here. Yeah, so he was here. He told me that because he bought a house in France, and he's regretting. It's like, if I had known, I would have gotten a house by the Sea of Galilee. And I'm like, it's not too late. You said the one in France and you moved down here.
Yeah, well, you know what? If acting doesn't come back after this coronavirus, that might be my goal. I'm going to buy a little boat, take people out on the Sea of Galilee, you know, play Oceans from Hillsong, let them enjoy their moment.
You love Oceans?
It's a great song. Great song.
I love it so much. My friend Angelica, she likes it so much.
There's a new song that I keep playing on repeat, like 24/7 right now. It's called Yeshua. I don't know who sings it, but it's just called Yeshua. It's so good. I just, you know, every morning. And you know what I do? When I wake up and I do my prayer time, I have a little application that tells me which way Jerusalem is, you know. So I face Jerusalem when I pray, you know, just because it's Mount Zion, man. It's God chose the place for a reason. So I'm like, well, that's I'm going to choose that place to pray, you know. I'm going to point my direction toward it, you know. So there's so much to be said. But hey, dude, blessings to you. I'm so grateful that God made you walk down the Via Dolorosa that day and take me away from the interesting conversation that I was having. But yeah, man, I'm so grateful for you, and I'm excited for what God does in your life. I know He's going to just stir things up, and if there's anything I can ever do to support you and encourage you, like, you know, I'm 100% in. So
you're doing a lot already. Thank you, and I really appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, hey, say hello to all your friends that are also becoming priests very